Welcome to Echoes of Legends. I'm Brian. This channel is dedicated to honoring unforgettable icons whose lives and achievements continue to inspire. We share heartfelt tributes, powerful stories, and lasting memories from film, music, sports, and beyond. Join us as we celebrate their legacy and ensure their influence echoes through generations to come. 10 years ago this week, the music world reflected on the passing of Malik Taylor, known to fans as Phife Dawg, a foundational voice in hip-hop and a key member of a tribe called Quest. He died at the age of 45, leaving behind a legacy that continues to influence artists and listeners alike. Though often described as the group's quieter presence, his contributions were central to their identity, bringing sharp lyricism, humor, and an authentic perspective grounded in everyday experience. His verses helped shape the sound and direction of landmark albums, such as The Low End Theory, where his rhythmic precision and storytelling balanced the group's more laid-back style. Phife Dawg's work stood out for its relatability, addressing real-life themes with honesty and clarity, which helped redefine what hip-hop could express during a transformative era. Over time, his influence has only grown, with new generations discovering his music and recognizing the depth of his artistry. Even years after his passing, Phife Dawg's voice remains a vital part of hip-hop's history, continuing to resonate through recordings that still feel immediate, personal, and enduring. Nick Pope was born in England in 1965 and began his career as a British civil servant with the Ministry of Defence. Early in his professional life, he followed a conventional path before being assigned in 1991 to a small office that reviewed reports of unidentified aerial phenomena. While most cases were explained through ordinary causes, a portion remained uncertain, shaping his cautious and analytical approach to the subject. After leaving government service, he became a public commentator and author, discussing unexplained sightings in a measured way that emphasized open-minded inquiry over certainty. Over time, he appeared in documentaries and interviews, becoming a recognizable voice in discussions about unexplained aerial reports. In early 2026, he revealed he had been diagnosed with stage 4 esophageal cancer. Despite his illness, he continued to speak publicly and engage with audiences with composure and clarity. He passed away on April 6, 2026, at the age of 60. He is remembered for his thoughtful perspective, his willingness to engage with difficult questions, and the calm, balanced way he approached public discussion throughout his life. Michael Tilson Thomas, widely known as MTT, was a celebrated American conductor, composer, and educator who passed away at the age of 81 in San Francisco, California. He died peacefully at his home, surrounded by family and close friends, marking the end of a remarkable era in classical music, especially for the San Francisco Symphony, where he served as music director for 25 years. He had been living with glioblastoma multiforme since 2021. Despite undergoing surgery and a return to conducting, the illness eventually progressed, though he continued engaging with music and delivered a final emotional concert with the San Francisco Symphony during his 80th birthday celebration. He studied under Leonard Bernstein at Tanglewood and rose to international prominence after stepping in to conduct the Boston Symphony Orchestra in 1969. As music director of the San Francisco Symphony from 1995 to 2020, he transformed the orchestra's global reputation and championed American composers. He also co-founded the New World Symphony in Miami Beach, dedicating himself to mentoring young musicians and expanding access to classical music. His legacy endures through recordings, Grammy Awards, and lifelong commitment to education and orchestral performance. Mara Claire Costello was an American actress whose steady and thoughtful career spanned television, film, and acting education, leaving a lasting impression through her dedication to craft rather than celebrity. Born on February 3, 1936, in Peoria, Illinois, she developed an early interest in performance during a period when American entertainment was rapidly expanding. She later trained at the Actors Studio in New York City, where she refined a method-based approach focused on emotional truth and character depth. Costello began her career in theater, building a strong foundation that informed her work across screen roles. She became widely recognized for her role in the television series The Waltons, where she portrayed Rosemary Hunter Fordwick, contributing warmth and authenticity to the show's ensemble storytelling. She also appeared in various film and television productions across multiple decades, demonstrating versatility across drama and other genres. In her later years, she dedicated herself to teaching acting in Los Angeles, mentoring students in performance technique and emotional honesty. Costello passed away in New York City at the age of 90, leaving behind a legacy defined by integrity, discipline, and enduring artistic contribution. John M. Perkins passed away at his home in Jackson at the age of 95, after living with Alzheimer's disease and dementia. His life reflected a steady commitment to helping others and staying true to his beliefs. He was a Christian leader and civil rights activist who spent decades working to support people living in poverty, focusing on practical help as well as sharing hope through his faith. Perkins founded the Christian Community Development Association, which grew into a wider movement centered on service, compassion, and community support. Before his work in activism, he served as a veteran of the Korean War, an experience that shaped his sense of discipline and resilience. Throughout his life, he remained focused on bringing people together and encouraging positive change in struggling communities. Those who knew his work often described it as grounded and consistent, built on long-term effort rather than recognition. His influence continues through the organizations he helped establish and the people he inspired to serve others with empathy and dedication. At 76, the story begins like a contradiction that refuses to resolve. A man once positioned at the absolute center of Hollywood's imagination, romantic lead, global sex symbol, the face behind some of the most enduring films of modern cinema, now lives deliberately outside the system that made him. The narrative says exile, but not as punishment imposed by scandal or failure. It is framed instead as a choice, one made slowly, then decisively, over decades. He is described as having been erased from the industry, blacklisted by certain markets, and cut off from opportunities that once defined his entire life. Yet the more accurate tension is not disappearance but refusal. Refusal to conform, refusal to soften political commitments, refusal to separate art from belief. The paradox sits at the center of his identity. While the industry evolved into a global machine chasing franchises and billion-dollar returns, he moved in the opposite direction, toward spiritual discipline, humanitarian work, and philosophical detachment from fame itself. What makes the story compelling is not simply the loss of status but the deliberate abandonment of it. The question that follows him is not how he fell, but why he stepped away while still at the height of cultural relevance. And beneath the mythic framing lies a quieter reality, a life shaped less by exile than by continuous reinvention, where success was never enough to override conviction, a childhood built on restlessness and quiet discipline. He was born in 1949 in Philadelphia and raised in Syracuse, New York, a modest environment far removed from the scale of the life he would eventually inhabit. His upbringing was structured but emotionally open, shaped by a father who had once considered becoming a Methodist minister and instead channeled that moral instinct into everyday acts of service. Neighbors treated him less like an insurance agent and more like a community counselor, someone who carried responsibility with quiet seriousness. His mother created a home environment filled with stability, music, and encouragement, while raising 5 children in a household where expression was never discouraged. From early on, the boy who would become famous did not fit neatly into expectations. He was disciplined in physical pursuits, excelling in gymnastics, and equally drawn to music, mastering multiple instruments. This combination of physical precision and artistic curiosity defined his adolescence. In high school, he was known for balancing performance and athletic skill, capable of switching between trumpet rehearsals and athletic training with unusual ease. Yet beneath the accomplishments was an unmistakable sense of searching. He was not rebellious in a disruptive sense, but persistently questioning. Even as a teenager, he seemed to be negotiating with larger ideas of meaning, purpose, and identity, questions that would later define his spiritual path more than any career milestone ever could. Philosophy, Buddhism, and the search for something beyond. Achievement, college, did not redirect him toward stability. It deepened his questioning. He enrolled at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, initially on a gymnastics scholarship, but quickly gravitated toward philosophy. Instead of pursuing a conventional career path, he immersed himself in existential thought, reading Sartre and other philosophers who challenged fixed ideas of reality and selfhood. For him, philosophy was not abstract, it was urgent. It offered language for a dissatisfaction he could not otherwise articulate. Yet even philosophy proved insufficient. After 2 years, he left college without completing a degree. The decision was not framed as failure, but as departure, a refusal to remain inside structures that no longer felt meaningful. He moved toward theater, first in small productions and repertory work, often living precariously and taking whatever roles he could find. During this period, Buddhism entered his life, initially through Zen practice and later through deeper engagement with Tibetan traditions. Meditation became not a hobby, but a discipline, a way of reorganizing perception itself. Extended periods of silence, breathwork, and study began to replace ambition as the organizing force of his days. What he encountered was not simply a religion, but a framework that challenged ego as a concept altogether. This shift would later define every major decision in his life, including the ones that cost him the most professionally. The slow rise through theater into Hollywood's attention. His entry into acting was not meteoric but gradual, shaped by years of stage work and small film roles that rarely attracted mainstream attention. In the early 1970s, he performed in theater productions that demanded intensity rather than glamour, including experimental and classical works that refined his craft. He lived with uncertainty, often moving between cities and sleeping in unstable conditions while pursuing auditions. The turning point came through performances that revealed a quiet intensity beneath his exterior. Directors began to notice his ability to project emotional complexity without overt display. Early film appearances were brief but memorable, signaling that he was not a conventional performer. He carried an unusual combination of restraint and presence that translated well on screen. By the mid to late 1970s, he began landing more substantial roles in films that placed him within the emerging landscape of new Hollywood cinema. These projects did not immediately make him a star, but they positioned him as an actor capable of depth. Critics began to recognize him as someone who could shift between vulnerability and authority without losing authenticity. What followed was not an overnight transformation, but a steady accumulation of visibility. Hollywood was beginning to understand what theater had already revealed. This was an actor who could carry emotional weight without theatrical excess, stardom, sexual mythology, and the weight of fame. The early 1980s changed everything. With films like American Gigolo and An Officer and a Gentleman, he transitioned from working actor to global icon. The roles defined a new archetype, controlled masculinity blended with emotional sensitivity, desire balanced with restraint. Audiences responded immediately, and his image became inseparable from a broader cultural idea of romance and charisma. Fame arrived quickly, and with it came expectations that extended beyond acting. He became a magazine fixture, a symbol projected onto fashion, desire, and masculinity itself. Yet internally, the experience was complicated. His spiritual practice emphasized detachment from ego and identity, while his public persona depended entirely on both. The contradiction was not theoretical, it was lived daily. Even as box office success solidified his position, he became increasingly selective and introspective about roles. Not every project resonated, and some failed commercially, prompting critics to question whether his appeal was image-driven rather than artistic. Still, he remained one of the most recognizable actors in the world. The tension between spiritual discipline and global fame did not resolve. Instead, it intensified, setting the stage for a life where professional success would increasingly conflict with personal conviction. Activism, Tibet, and the beginning of professional consequences. By the late 1980s, his attention had shifted decisively toward activism, particularly the situation in Tibet. Guided by Buddhist practice and his connection to Tibetan teachers, he became publicly involved in advocating for human rights and cultural preservation. Meetings with the Dalai Lama deepened his commitment, transforming private belief into public responsibility. This activism was not symbolic. He spoke openly, attended events, supported organizations, and used his visibility to draw attention to political realities that were often ignored in mainstream entertainment discourse. The consequences, however, were immediate and structural. China, a rapidly growing global film market, viewed his statements as unacceptable, effectively banning him from entry. For Hollywood studios, the implications were significant. The industry was increasingly dependent on international markets, and political friction posed financial risk. As a result, opportunities quietly began to disappear. Projects that once seemed likely were redirected. Conversations slowed, invitations became less frequent. He did not reverse course. Instead, he accepted the cost as part of a larger ethical framework. What emerged was a clear pattern. The more publicly committed he became to activism, the more distant he grew from mainstream industry structures. Marriage, Cindy Crawford, and the collision of public and private life. During this period of rising fame and growing activism, his personal life became equally visible. His relationship with supermodel Cindy Crawford became one of the defining celebrity pairings of the era. Their connection was immediate, shaped by shared interests in spirituality and travel, but also by the intensity that often accompanies public relationships. They moved quickly into marriage, a decision that reflected both emotional momentum and external pressure. However, the relationship soon revealed structural differences. Age, experience, and evolving identity created a gap that became harder to bridge over time. While they shared certain interests, they were navigating fundamentally different stages of personal development. The marriage eventually dissolved, and both later described the difficulty of maintaining intimacy under constant public scrutiny. Fame amplified every imbalance, turning private disagreements into public narratives. What remained afterward was mutual respect but clear separation. The experience reinforced a recurring pattern in his life. Deep personal relationships often struggled to coexist with the demands of a life split between public expectation and internal discipline. It was not an isolated event, but part of a larger trajectory of tension between intimacy and independence. Reinvention, through independent work and continued resistance. As mainstream opportunities narrowed, he moved toward independent cinema and selective projects that prioritized character complexity over commercial scale. Films in this period often explored moral ambiguity, aging, corruption, and identity, roles that aligned more closely with his personal philosophy than his earlier star-driven work. Rather than retreating from acting, he redefined its purpose. Success was no longer measured by box office performance, but by creative alignment. He took roles that allowed for restraint and introspection, often portraying characters in moral conflict. Critics began to reassess his career, recognizing depth that had sometimes been overshadowed by his early image as a romantic lead. Simultaneously, his activism expanded beyond Tibet to include broader humanitarian concerns, including indigenous rights and global political critique. His public statements remained consistent, even when controversial. This consistency further solidified his position outside the industry's commercial center. What emerged was not decline but divergence. He was still active, still visible, but no longer dependent on Hollywood's validation. His career became less a trajectory and more a series of intentional choices, each reinforcing independence over conformity. Later life, family, and the search for stability. In later years, he entered another long-term relationship and became a father, marking a significant shift toward domestic grounding. Fatherhood introduced a different rhythm to his life, balancing spiritual practice, activism, and personal responsibility. The experience was often described as transformative, reshaping his understanding of connection and permanence. He continued to work intermittently in film, including critically recognized performances that demonstrated sustained artistic capability. However, he remained selective, choosing projects that aligned with personal values rather than industry momentum. His marriage eventually ended after more than a decade, reflecting once again the difficulty of maintaining long-term stability within a life defined by movement between worlds, Hollywood, activism, and spiritual retreat. Court proceedings cited lifestyle differences, but the underlying narrative was consistent with earlier patterns, competing commitments that proved difficult to reconcile. Despite personal transitions, he maintained continuity in his activism and spiritual practice. Meditation, humanitarian work, and periodic retreats remained central. Aging did not diminish his commitments, it clarified them. A legacy defined by choice rather than absence. What remains most striking about his life is not exile, but agency. The dominant narrative of Hollywood departure often implies loss, but his trajectory suggests something more deliberate. At multiple points, he chose paths that reduced visibility but increased alignment with personal belief. His story resists simple categorization. He was never fully absorbed by fame, nor entirely removed from it. Instead, he occupied a shifting space between visibility and withdrawal, where success was consistently redefined rather than abandoned. Even when opportunities diminished due to political controversy, he did not frame the outcome as victimhood. The cost of conviction was real: fewer roles, reduced access to certain markets, and a career that moved away from mainstream dominance. Yet the outcome he describes is not regret but coherence. The tension between public success and private belief never fully resolved, but it became manageable through acceptance rather than compromise. In the end, the question his life raises is not why he left Hollywood, but what it means to remain faithful to oneself in a system that rewards conformity. His answer, lived rather than spoken, is that peace sometimes requires distance from the very stage that once defined you. Top of form, bottom of form.